Sekeres Price for Tuesday, May 7th, 2024, coming to you from the Nation Network studio built by Arbor Lee here at the iconic Wall Center in downtown Vancouver. If you're heading to a game, going to an event downtown, make it a staycation, call the Wall, 604-331-1000. Ask for the Sekeres Price rate. Some blackout dates apply. Matt Sekeres alongside Blake Price. Grady Sass hitting switches, conducting things alongside Sean Chessman. Big show coming up, and it's all brought to you by Applewood Auto Group.
You should head down to the Richmond Auto Mall. You can hit a bunch of the Applewood dealers there, but Applewood Infinity in Richmond in particular, which has fabulous deals right now on the 2024 Q50s. Lease rates from just 1.99% for 24 months and non-stat cash of $4,000 on all trims. Go check it out right now. Applewood Infinity at the Richmond Auto Mall. It is all good at Applewood.
Poll question today asking you, are the Canucks getting enough respect league-wide? Yes or no? You can vote at Sekeres Price on Twitter and YouTube. And we ask this because, once again, the Canucks, and it's been a long time, one of the final 8 teams standing in the National Hockey League, one of the final 2 Canadian teams standing in the National Hockey League. And it just seems like everybody wants to shit on our team, shit on our markets, shit on our fans.
Well, there's a couple of easy marks. The ride, we sort of made that bet on the West Coast, right? You know, you have a couple of rides.
But we're several rounds away from riding. Come on.
Yeah, it's not on the doorstep here, but it's just low-hanging fruit for other fan bases and media to pick apart. So that, you know, not surprised.
The thing about Canucks Twitter is that it was early on the app. It came numbers, and it came unapologetically for other franchises. And frankly, I just think it shook a whole lot of other markets, fan bases, and even NHL media commentators.
I think the Oiler fan base is the aggressor here, much in the way that the Canuck fan base were the aggressors back in 2011, because when you're the favorite, when you're the team with expectation, there's an insecurity there, because God help you if you lose. Like the hand wringing in Edmonton, if they lost in the second round again, would be huge. They can't afford to do so. So the best defense is a good offense. So everybody in Edmonton's going on the offense right now, trying to be the aggressor, trying to pick apart the Canucks fans and the Canuck team in particular, because they're insecure. They're the team that has expectation. Canucks bow out. We talked yesterday. Canucks bow out in 6. Good run.
Year.
Good year.
Season.
It's a good year.
From where they came, absolutely.
Almost nothing to lose.
Edmonton has to make the Stanley Cup final. And frankly, one of these years has to win the Stanley Cup final. But we'll start with Ryan Whitney of Spittin' Chicklets. Hates the fans here. Says they're the softest in the league. Quote, I'm about to haunt your fucking dreams for the next 2 weeks, okay? I cannot stand the Vancouver Canucks. I've always hated that team. I love Rick Tocchet. I have so much respect for him, but I hate their fans, and I cannot wait to beat them. This team's fan base is so cocky.
The softest?
Cocky. Maybe 13 years ago.
Yeah.
I've certainly not sensed cocky here.
No. Cocky about where we live. Yeah. But about the team? No.
Whitney continues, when I talk about Toronto being useless and pathetic, you guys might be worse. You've never done shit. Never won a thing. Never done anything. You went to the finals and you blew it. You lost in 94. You stink. Now you act like you're this wonderful, amazing franchise with all these incredible players. You guys have done nothing.
Coming from a guy who went to the finals and blew it.
I mean, all these incredible players. I mean, there's 3 recent inductees to the Hockey Hall of Fame. It is one of the biggest hockey markets the world over. In fact, I think you can make a pretty good case. It's on the podium of hockey markets the world over.
He's made the playoffs once without Sidney Crosby.
Right.
He's played 82 games like once in his career. Soft. Couldn't get through the last 5 seasons with more than 35, 50 games. Like, come on. Be careful. Be careful.
Where do you think he stores his Olympic silver medal?
Did he get one of those?
I think he got an Olympic silver.
Extra D-man.
Congratulations.
He was the extra D-man, was he?
Something like that. You think Ryan Whitney was out there in the gold medal defending the blue line for the United States?
I don't think he ever defended the blue line.
And if he was, I think that explains why we won. Anyways, it's all in good fun. Also, we're asking this because ESPN, and look, ESPN is new to hockey again. We get it.
New to hockey again.
Catching up. They missed a couple of decades there. So they're back doing NHL games again, and good on the worldwide leader. Love their theme music. And actually, McDonough and Ferraro really love the game they call. But Henny, hey, welcome back to Hockey ESPN. And they surveyed 24 of their hockey personalities on this series, asking for predictions. 23 of them picked the Edmonton Oilers. The one lone standout against groupthink, Ryan S. Clark, just down the I-5 in Seattle.
Yeah. And that's surprising to some degree. I would have expected the vast majority for sure. But I would have thought out of, 24 you said? 24 predictions?
Yes, sir.
I would have said 18 were the Oilers, 18 to 20.
Mm-hmm.
To be that close to unanimity is a little bit shocking. Although,
of course, this is quite a groupthink sport. And the other thing is a lot of these guys picked, not a lot, a good number of these guys picked the Predators in round one. And I think there was a really good reason for that. And you're going to want to listen to Frank Corrado later in the show as to why there seemingly was a groundswell for Nashville prior to their first round series against the Canucks and why that endures into this one.
I mean, but at the very basic level, Preds had a great second half of the season. I mean, they were amongst the best teams, if not the best team in the league in the second half of the season.
Same with Edmonton.
Yeah.
Right.
So, momentum is expected to carry over to some degree. Canucks were able to eschew that in the first round. But Edmonton still got that momentum with a 5-game
and
workover of LA.
And here's the thing. Like on this show, we don't fan out. But as Bosch always used to say, we are fans of Vancouver hockey fans.
That's it.
Like, I love this market and the intensity of the hockey fans. And yeah, we're thirsty. It's been 54 years and no Stanley Cup. Knocked the door 3 times, got really close twice.
Well, what I'm an enemy of too, Matt, is really stupid takes and uninformed takes. So when somebody who's an Oiler fan or Oiler media has just a ridiculous take as to why the Oilers are going to win, or a ridiculous take on why the Canucks suck, I'll take a little umbrage there. Like, you want to pick apart why the Oilers are going to win power play. I'll listen to that all day long.
I haven't seen many ridiculous takes, frankly, about why the Oilers are going to win. It's certainly not coming out of Edmonton. Not yet. Have you?
Well, just Whitney's just emotional battle cry. That's about it.
Going at a young kid, the kid out in Surrey.
He didn't really go at it.
Oh,
he made a reference to
the cursing kid in Surrey.
Yeah,
I don't think he didn't go at me. He made a reference to it, but
you're chirping a kid.
He didn't chirp him, but I mean, you want to find a swearing kid in a crowd? It'll take you about 5 seconds in any given crowd anywhere. Kid swear.
So you're a parent. If your kid says that straight to camera, are you or are you like, oh my God?
Well, no, I don't want it on camera. No. My only problem with that viral video is that's a kid who, in 10 years, hopefully doesn't come to regret that, because that video goes.
You think it's going to follow him?
No, but probably not, Matt. But you just don't want anything stupid on camera these days, ever. So that would be that's my advice as a parent, is try not to have your kid doing anything stupid on camera.
Uh-oh, we're in trouble. 11:30 weekdays, Monday to Friday.
I'm allowed to do something
stupid.
I'm allowed to do something stupid on camera.
We do that every day.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Set your alarm to it.
Well, my only thing with it is it's clear the kid's being fed those lines, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's not coming up with that on his own and going to the camera and saying them. He's being urged on by adults who should probably know better.
Yeah.
Let's get to our top story. It's brought to you by Mr. Lube. A big Thatcher Demco update from our buddy Frank Saravelli of the Daily Faceoff. He calls this week a big week. He's talked about how Thatcher Demco is skating. Says the earliest he could return is Game 5. Now, he's skating in full gear. He did not take shots yesterday. Jeff attended practice, and he was not taking shots yesterday, but this is encouraging news for the Vancouver Canucks starter. What I will say, though, and I said it yesterday, and Frank says, Game 5 is probably pushing it, but Game 6, 7 get interesting if necessary. As I said yesterday, I think while this is clearly a subplot and a storyline that we are all going to follow as media and fans, I think this is something that is completely out of the Canucks players. Or blinkers on this one. You can't be thinking, oh, Thatcher's coming to the rescue in games 5, 6, or 7. I think you got to play your absolute hardest for Arturs Silovs. And if Demco is able to return, so be it.
That's why he's not practicing with the team fully. I think he's sort of doing his own program right now, and I think that's completely acceptable. The thing I would say is that if Game 6 or 7 is more likely, what are the scenarios in which you're dropping him into Game 6 or 7?
That's it.
The only scenarios that I can see where he drops into Game 6 or 7 are if you were up 2-1 in the series and you've dropped the last 2 to go down 3-2. But if you were down 3-1, you win Game 5 to make it 3-2. The guy who just won you Game 5 is probably the better bet to play in the Game 6.
Can I throw this into your?
Sure.
Can Rick Tocchet afford to pick another goaltender in a deciding Game 7? If you have a healthy Thatcher Demco
it's not going to be healthy,
ready
though.
for Game 7,
no,
do you not go down with your all-star?
But he's not going to be healthy. We have to be clear with that. He's not going to be 100% in this series. He's going to be at an acceptable level to play in this series, but he's not going to be 100%. So a guy, again, who just won you Game 5 to force Game 6, he's probably a better bet than an 80% Thatcher Demco.
Or the Chicago series. Win the first 3, lose the next 3. Then are you going to Demco?
Yeah, then I might be tempted then. For sure. But it'd have to be something like that where momentum is just not looking good for your goaltenders. It's all brought to you by Mr. Lube, the top story. Need a tire change or tire service? Mr. Lube provides no appointment tire service and sales. Drop by any time for tire rotation, repair, and balancing. This is servicing all makes and models, including EVs. 16 locations. Go to MrLube.com.
Want to hear from some of the Vancouver Canucks about this series. And, of course, yesterday we talked about a little bit about it as well. We will again today and tomorrow, but routes to victory for the Vancouver Canucks, pathways to winning this series. We know it's going to be difficult. We know things have to break the Canucks' way in certain elements of the series. So let's start with the elephant in the room, Connor McDavid and Elias Lindholm, who of course has long experience against 97. Based on the Battle of Alberta days, including a Battle of Alberta series a couple of years ago. Elias Lindholm was asked about how do you stop or just slow down Connor McDavid.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I think obviously his speed is really dangerous. He's a really good player, obviously, and like I said, it's I think. There's times where it's a player like that through 7 games is it's impossible to not. He's gonna have his moments, right? So I mean it's just shift to shift and focus and every time he's out there you got to be ready because he's pretty dangerous.
You talked about it yesterday, Blake, that if he gets a goal here, a point there, so be it. He's that good a player, it's going to happen. But he can't have a game where he's absolutely feasting on you. He certainly can't have a series where he's feasting on you. And in some regards, if the points do come on the power play, but you're able to neutralize or come as close as possible to neutralizing them at even strength, I mean, that's just about the best outcome here. I'm not typically someone who describes to defeatism, but I do think you have to concede that this is a player who is so talented and so good that he's going to get his.
Yeah.
You're just hoping he doesn't feast on you, and you, of course, are hoping to limit it to just him and not let some of the running mates get going.
We went over the stats yesterday, though. The stats at 5-on-5 are not gaudy. Like they didn't run roughshod. They didn't feast 5-on-5. They
2.4
on the power play.
2.4 expected goals for per 60 in round one. The Canucks were 2.49 expected goal. That's at even strength.
Yeah.
And then scoring chances for per 60 in the first round. Edmonton just under 25. Vancouver 27.
And that's at 5-on-5 too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like
that might be all told. No, that's all.
No,
5
I
on
doubt
5.
it. Yeah,
Yes.
they rarely quote that.
Yeah,
also.
absolutely.
Yeah,
yeah.
like so
they destroyed them on the power play. That much
destroyed them.
like
again, it was a coin toss. Every other power play they scored. Like imagine what a benefit that is to a team. Like it's absurd. So
and that's terrifying enough if you're a Canucks
it is.
player or coach, right? That
Yeah.
they scored every second power play. So needless to say, staying out of the penalty box a huge key as well. Then there was Nikita Zadorov, who may have been the best Canuck in the first round, may have been the most consistent Canuck, game 1 through 6 in the first round. He and Ian Cole had a terrific series against Nashville. They know this is a different animal than the Predators, and they also know that turnovers would be just about the worst prescription to beating the Oilers. Take a listen to the Big Russian.
That's their food to eat, like when teams turning the puck over against them, they just jump on the rush. They're so super dangerous on the counter attacks, right? They're waiting for you to make a mistake, and they just explode because they have such a fast team and really good off the rush, and those players have world-class skill to make plays off the rush, yeah.
And that's where I hope those little foibles that we saw from Quinn Hughes too, even go the way of the dodo, because that's not usually Quinn's thing, but we saw him have a handle issue with the puck at various times in that Predator series, and the rest of them too. When they're starting the breakout with the Oiler forwards and their speed, they see a loose crumb there, they're going to pick a pocket and they're going to be off to the races. And that's where this extra couple of days here between the series, hopefully, if there was a ding there for Quinn Hughes, he's feeling a lot better and is more himself and able to be as sure-handed as he can possibly be.
The Edmonton Oilers create the highest quality shots in the National Hockey League, and they also finish above and beyond what your regular team would be expected to finish. So Zadorov is 100% right that turnovers are likely going to get them quality shots, and they do a way better job of converting those quality shots than your average bear. Plus just the speed of McDavid bearing down on you, right?
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
It's intimidating.
And the fact that Draisaitl can score with regularity from the goal line, where you don't even see a visual line of sight into the goal, and he somehow seems to make it happen with regularity. They're a crazy offensive team when they want to be.
Do you remember the Bulls dynasty and Scottie Pippen would shoot those skinny bank shots from the baseline?
Yeah.
That's what Draisaitl has.
Yeah.
And Pippen was the only guy in the league who had that shot. Draisaitl is one of the few guys in the league who is consistently drawing that shot and consistently successful.
Skates
the
below
back.
the goal line.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah. Those one-timers.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
Now, hey, one of the big factors of this series was
I got one more.
Of what?
Just a key.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
You're talking about Pettersson?
Yeah.
He's sick.
Not a practice. Was there yesterday. Not here today.
Now they say sick, but as we found out with Austin Matthews, sick is often if you want to be polite, a euphemism. If you want to be impolite, just a flat out lie. And the National Hockey League and its member clubs are quite dishonest at this time of year.
Yeah.
So much so that you wonder where their gaming partners are going to be in this in a couple of years and whether it continue. But for the moment, dishonesty rules. It's lying season. It's smokescreen season.
Now, I do know a lot of people that are sick. I think there is that going around, but I think it's also what you said too. I mean, it's Yeah, we'll see. If he is sick, let's take it at face value. Let's hope it propped up, early yesterday and 2 nights sleep. Is he ready to go for game number 1? You hope so. Tyler Myers missed 1 game.
Right.
So you hope that's the same.
Cynics would say they won round 1 without Elias Pettersson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, he's a key as well, as we talked about on yesterday's show, and we're not going to review everything that we got into breaking down the series on yesterday's show. I'm going to try and build on it. But, yeah, I mean, Elias Pettersson is likely going to have a matchup with Ryan McLeod's line. That needs to be a matchup the Vancouver Canucks win. More on that with Frank Corrado.
I think we assume Pettersson is playing tomorrow, though.
I think, yeah. No.
Yeah.
You know me, I'm starting to roll my eyes a little bit about guys missing playoff games with sickness. Like if you've got a broken bone, if you've got a torn ligament or something like that, I completely get it. But a flu, a cold, suck it up season, no?
Well, it depends on how sick you are, really. I mean, got cold, probably not.
Come on,
flu,
man. Like flu games. Anyways,
not all flus are the same.
Yeah, I understand. If this was debilitating COVID, it would be one thing.
Hey, Matt, I got the sniffles. I don't think I'm going to make it into work tomorrow.
I'm sorry, I can't abide that.
It's not the Portland Trailblazer who said he couldn't show up for a game because his driveway was icy. That one takes the cake. Are you kidding me? My driveway's icy. I can't make it to work today.
2 words: winter tires. We both feel, and said on Monday's program that the Vancouver Canucks need to put more shots on goal. That being the second lowest total of shots on goal through 5 games of the playoff series, as they were against the Nashville Predators until they exploded for 30 in that final game 6, just far and away their season high. 28 shots per game on goal in the regular season. A full 10 less than that through the first 5 against Nashville. We cited that as something that has to change as well, that you just have to threaten the goal more than Vancouver did in the first round series against the Nashville Predators. Rick Tocchet, I know you love a counterintuitive take, partner. Rick Tocchet doesn't necessarily agree. Here's Tocchet on not being worried about the low shot totals.
And let's face it, the best defense is having the puck. So we'd like to hold on pucks. That's why you can't. That's why you got to move your feet. That's why you got to win battles. You got to keep the puck. You can't throw pucks away. You can't stand still. They thrive on that stuff. You got to make them stop and play defense. If they like playing on the move, and if even a shot down the wing, a bad angle shot, missing the net is not a good play. That's why. I know around here a lot of, everybody always talks about shots, but if it's not a good shot, don't take it. I don't care about the shot clock. I mean, I want to keep the puck. You throw a puck at the net, a high, hard one, it goes wide. McDavid just picks up the puck and he's gone. So that's a strategy for us is, you cannot throw stupid shots at the net.
He's absolutely right.
Well,
especially with this team, you combine the Zadorov comment with that one. Mm-hmm. The two are kind of one and the same. It's a loose puck with momentum going the other way. If it's off the shin pads, or if it's an angled shot, as he's talking about, that's off the boards and going in the direction that favors the Oilers. So he's right on that, but I still think there's a happy medium there.
Well, I think what we heard there, and by the way, beautifully communicated and explained, as per always with Rick Tocchet. He has been sensational in that regard. You learn so much about the game listening to the man day after day. But I think what we're getting here is a little bit of the gospel of Rick Tocchet hockey. And it wasn't as pronounced in the regular season because of scores. Of course, space is a little more easily attained in the regular season. People aren't playing the game like they're playing Stanley Cup playoff games. But as we know, the Canucks were not a big rush team. As we know, the Canucks, part of the Canucks method is an ability to convert on a high percentage of the shots that you do take. And I think that's getting rather acute and rather pronounced in the playoffs. And yet that's how he's going to go down. He would rather the Vancouver Canucks find a way to get a high quality shot and convert it, rather than the law of averages approach of putting a whole bunch of pucks on net, seeing if some of them go in, and if they don't go in, maybe you whack home a rebound.
The thing I'd say on that is what I don't see anymore is a ton of transition game for the Canucks and counterattack.
There wasn't much all year.
Well, the part of the season there was.
Well,
they just converted on it. Remember that they didn't lead the league in number of.
They were the lowest rush team in the league, but
with the highest goals,
with the highest percentage of
conversion, baby.
Yeah. So I would hate for them to pass up the opportunity for odd man rushes because they've got the coach in their ears saying, no, I'm just going to hold on to the puck and wait for the cavalry to join me.
Yeah.
Like you do have to take advantage of spots when given to you.
I agree. You have to pick spots. And I think that goes not just on the rush plate, but also on when to pull the trigger in the half court.
That's it. Like we saw, and we're not talking about bad angle shots here, Coach. We're not talking about into shin pads. We saw moments where you could have had a path to the net and got a shot off at the top of the circles.
Right.
And they chose not to. So again, there's a happy medium. In theory, in concept, what he just said is absolutely true. But I think he's ignoring that they still they took it to the nth degree.
And I don't think it was as acute in the regular seasons for all the reasons we outlined. But one of the things that I heard as we went through the national series is they just got to get the puck on net. Enough with trying the pretty play, the pretty pass. Get the puck on net.
Yep. I still think this series should look different. It should be an aesthetically different looking series.
I think you're right.
Than versus the Predators.
I think you're right.
In a good way. I don't think it's going to be a barn burner back and forth, but I think it will look better.
Incidentally, we should have played this earlier, Grady. My bad. Former Canucks president of hockey operations, former Canucks captain Trevor Linden joined our colleagues Jeff Pettersson, Irfan Ghaffar on Rinkwide Vancouver in their series preview show. And number 16 had a hot take about number 40. Take a listen.
Played much better in game 5. But for them to have any sort of chance, he's got to be their best player or one of them. And I just don't. And you're going to go through times where you're not feeling it or not seeing it. But for me, Elias just isn't in the fight. And you know what I mean? And let's be honest here. Playoff hockey is about, it's a war. I mean, and you see how some of these guys are approaching. It's an all-out battle. And it's not so much about, making plays. It's about just competing and it's just, for me, when I watch Elias, he's just got to get in the fight and he's capable of that. But they will not win this series if they don't have him as one of their best players.
And now, with him sick, you wonder how much is he going to be able to ramp up his fight for game number 1 versus the Oilers. But not wrong from Trevor. We saw some battle there. Him playing along the boards there on the game-winning goal was a great play. But it's not. That's still not vintage Pettersson though.
Right.
Like, great that he did that, but that's not vintage Pettersson.
And look, I think it's becoming clear. Hasn't already become clear with certain players that learning to play in the Stanley Cup playoffs can take some time, that it can be quite a shock to the system for players, vested NHL veterans who think they know what's coming, and then all of a sudden realize just how hard it is. Of course, the famous story after the 83 Cup final where the Gretzky told it often, where the Oilers get swept by the then 4-time consecutive Stanley Cup champion New York Islanders, and they're walking out of the Nassau Coliseum past the Islanders dressing room, thinking there would be a huge party going on in there, and you've got a pretty stoic room with lots of ice bags and guys getting treatment. And Gretzky and the Oilers looked at it and went, oh, that's what it takes to win a Stanley Cup. And, of course, did so the next year. When Trevor says he's not in the fight, he's right. And, sometimes it's hard to muster the gumption to get in the fight.
Trevor basically asked for him to have he'll play moment.
Yes. But
And
I
you
mean,
know what?
Höglander, Hronek, they have some guys who were very key parts of this fantastic regular season in forward roles. Top six winger, top pair right side defenseman, Elias Pettersson, I guess your number 2 center now after JT. Those are really important positions for a team in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And you've got 3 guys there who have had quite a rude awakening to the Stanley Cup playoffs. 2 of whom have never played a playoff game, in Höglander and Hronek, and one of whom, who has already admitted, too emotionally high for the first couple games in Vancouver. Totally different than the bubble because the energy of the crowd can affect the proceedings, and players feed off those momentum swings that derived from the crowd and the crowd's reaction.
Well, I'll be even more impressed if he is sick or nursing something and he has a good game 1. We're going to be even more impressed because he's clearly battled to get to that point. So we'll see what it looks like.
Where were you for the Pettersson flu game?
That's right. Yeah, legends are born out of these moments. We said this when Silovs had to go in. When Silovs had to go in, are we going to see a legend born here? And the answer was yes. Even if this is the end of the line for the Canucks.
Yeah, I mean, right now, and Patrick Johnson did a marvelous piece on this. Great segue here, Blake. Well done. That right now, he's a Canucks cult favorite, right?
Yeah.
There have been other cult favorites over the years. Eddie Lack was a cult favorite. Jeff Cowan, a cult favorite.
Eddie Lack didn't win him a series, though.
No. But brief periods where a Canuck had Sean maybe punching a little bit above their weight class at the time. Underdog story, cult figure.
He's above Jason King, though.
Right. Yes. Exactly. Jason King. We had a great conversation with Coach King last year after he moved to Minnesota. So it's one thing to be a cult classic, a cult figure. He's trying to be a legend.
Yeah.
There's a long way to legend.
He wins a few games in this series. He's pretty darn
they beat
close.
Edmonton. I think he's legend.
No, but honestly, even if he won 2 games and minded the shop, kept them in the fight, and Demco dropped in later and won them the series, I think Silovs still gets some huge credits for keeping them in the fight.
Yeah,
he wins 2 to 3 games in this series.
He needs the Alex Burrows roadmap from fascination to cult figure to legend.
Right. Yeah,
and more from PJ. So Latvian fans, who of course, look, there's 3 countries in the world where ice hockey is the number 1 sport. This one, Finland, Latvia. Blake's been to international hockey events. If you've experienced the World Juniors or anything here around the province,
latch on to the Latvians.
Just go find where the Latvians are partying because they party hardiest. Now, as for Artie, he of course took him on that incredible run at the World Championships.
Artie party.
They win the bronze. They beat Team USA. And like a bronze is as good as gold in Latvia. Latvia knows they are never winning a gold medal at an international hockey tournament that Canada is partaking in. So bronze it might as well be gold. And they have the massive celebration. And of course, the games in the build-up become huge. The English pronunciation of his name, Blake, she loves. And so they started playing
the
Beatles. She loves you. Yeah. There has to be the Beatles. She loves you. Yeah. At Rogers Arena on Wednesday night.
If they win the game, like have that as the playoff song, like the play it out song. Yeah. That's not bad.
I'm thinking more first break, first period. Close up on the goaltender, some highlights from the Nashville series.
I'm scarred by the Casey DeSmith chants and the early goal allowed. I think you do this when you to reward performance rather than spur it on. I think it's too much expectation, too much pressure. If he gets the win,
the fans want to celebrate the first round win and the shutout by the young rookie goaltender.
It's too late. Page turn.
No,
moving on.
You should get that moment. Al Murdoch, I hope you're watching, listening. Use your influence here. Get Artie that moment.
He's going to have his moment when he steps out on the ice
Oh, but he's stepping on with everybody else. He needs an individualized moment.
Chant his name in the warm-up.
Grady, break the tie.
Chant his name in the warm-up.
Yeah, I'm with Blake.
What? He's a goaltender. You're a goalie guy.
What happened
Give
last
me back
time
your
this
damn
happened?
goaltender card.
He's thinking about the DeSmith moment. Don't jinx him. It's too much pressure on the kid. Come on.
She loves McDavid.
No.
Yeah.
We're not chanting his name.
You're just singing the Beatles song
We're serenading him with the Beatles
at the end of the game with a win.
at the first break in the first period.
Now, the crowd in the arena, are they going to be familiar enough with that song? You got to factor that
It's
in.
the freaking Beatles.
Right.
Yeah.
What's
They
the
were
average,
distributed.
average age of the fans in attendance there?
Old enough to remember the freaking Beatles.
Oh,
Syndicate
They kind of transcended.
Syndicate in the YouTube chat. Don't jinx them. Jeff, the next comment.
Oh.
Let's leave the home goalies
Can
alone.
I just say something? Fuck this stupid stitious stuff. And that's what I call it. There's nothing that happens out here.
That's not superstitious, though. That's not superstition.
What do you mean?
Chanting the goalie?
No.
Chanting the goalie's
We
name?
chanted the goalie's name and they scored on him, so we can't do it again. No. Stupid stitious.
No, that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about when you're putting that pressure on the guy, he hears that in the middle of play and lets in a goal. It's actually
You think
agency.
it's a distraction?
Yes. Let him play.
Oh my goodness. Why isn't it support? Why isn't it inspiration? I can frame the argument my way too.
You know what? If he lets in a
And
bad
in
goal,
a positive way.
if he lets in a bad goal and you're
And
trying
why
to
am I the
build him
one
up,
being
sure.
positive on this?
Yeah, I don't know.
You two are just so negative.
No, not at all.
Negative,
Structuring
evil
things
media.
for success.
Structuring things from success
For
by
success.
relying on
Yeah.
superstition.
No, it's
Oh
not again, we just talked about this. Not about superstition at all. It's about actual agency.
I don't know. Maybe I just have an anticipation that a goaltender is laser focused in a Stanley Cup playoff game.
They're all humans out there, last I checked.
hey, at least in Penticton at the Boston Pizza now,
Hey,
they
now.
got the Let's Go Canucks bring the cup home after
Mhm.
there was some cyber bullying online by Canucks fans.
Right.
More on that in the podcast.
Yes, exactly. Leon Draisaitl says he doesn't care what happened in the regular season. Says he doesn't think the Canucks do either. Says we need to stop talking about it, that it was long ago, and the Oilers are a different team now. Vancouver went 4-0 undefeated and swept the season series against the Oilers this year. Scored them 21-7,
Thank you.
tripled them up. Beat the stuffing out of them. McDavid lost his cool a couple of times, started taking retaliatory penalties,
Temper tantrums on
started
ice.
whining and bitching in the postgame as well.
Unsportsmanlike.
Oh, they put their number one power play unit out there. Oh, what a great offense. What a great affront. I hope 97 has recovered since then.
JT Miller owned him.
Let me ask you this, because in fairness, we all recognize 3 of those 4 games were very early in the season when the Oilers had a different coach, a different goaltender, a different defensive posture, and were a tire fire. And we also recognize that the 4th game did not include Thatcher, did not include Connor McDavid, and didn't
Did not
include
include
Thatcher Demco either. Not
No.
that he's going to be involved here until at least, Frank says, game 5, more likely game 6 or game 7. But is there a psychological hurdle that the Oilers have to get over if the Canucks are successful in game 1?
It doesn't hurt. Like, there's no guarantee.
Yeah.
You don't win game 1. Oh, we're going to win the series because they're crushed. But
No.
I think there will be.
Boy, we've played them 5 times and have yet to get a victory.
Yeah.
And so any seed of doubt here,
For sure.
you know, like we asked yesterday about an underdog, and the Canucks are absolutely an underdog. And I love how sort of college basketball coaches in the NCAA's March Madness talk about winning as an underdog. Survive that opening 10 minutes. Be there midway through the first half.
Shorten the game. Shorten the
Right.
game.
You know, win the next 10 minutes or be right there at halftime.
Mhm.
Because then the favorite goes into the break and goes, okay, well, these guys aren't going away.
This is frustrating.
Survive the next 5 to 10 minutes coming out of the break, right?
Just keep shortening the game.
Exactly.
Just
and
keep
then
shortening
turn
the
it
game.
into
Bad break.
a third period game where the puck luck, the anything like that can.
Yep. That's no matter what the sport. That's always the name of the game with an underdog is shorten the game.
And that goes for the series as well.
Hate it
right?
or love it.
Stick around in this series and see what the pressure, because we all recognize Edmonton has a ton of pressure on it. Vancouver has very little.
Well, Stuart Skinner too, right?
So,
Skinner's still
just getting there, Blake.
Like
well
Skinner is having a very nice renaissance half of the season here, and he's been
an exceptional goalie, really, since
he's vindicated the position for the Edmonton Oilers, who looked like they had screwed it up again at the start of the season. So he's vindicated management to some degree in that way, but I don't think his resume is so long that if he has a bad game,
he's been ventilated in Stanley Cup playoff.
Yeah, I think he's going to have goals of Christmas past come and haunt him. So it's
exactly.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't typically say that the series rides on game one, but boy, do I think game one is big for the Vancouver Canucks in front of their home fans.
Could be very helpful.
If the best you can do is a split here in Vancouver, turn home ice over to the Oilers, I would have some doubts. I would have big doubts. You win game one as the Canucks, I think you're in a very good spot at that point. Because then you've got a chance, probably not, but a chance that things start to cascade downhill for the Oilers.
I wonder if this is the thing, and I don't have the stats to support it in front of me, but because of the playoff format now, I wonder if you're less likely to hold on to home ice advantage throughout a series because you're playing that team in that barn. Like it's not like the Canucks going into Nashville. It's a stranger territory. You're only there generally once a year.
Twice this year, but I hear what you're saying.
For the most cases, you're only there once. So you're used to going to Edmonton.
Oh yeah.
Like it's not a strange thing. Meanwhile, again, you're facing, if you happen to have an out of conference opponent, you're maybe not quite as familiar. Mm-hmm. And of course, over the years, Canucks, when the schedule was different, you even had more loaded games in Alberta for anybody on the team that remembers that. So
the bubble.
I don't know how strange games in Edmonton are going to feel.
Yeah,
the fans certainly.
Well,
but they're going to be.
So the thing, if it goes to Hoyle, they don't need to win a game in Edmonton. They just have to take care of business on home ice. Now, probably isn't going to go that way.
No, and what I said goes both ways. I'm saying I don't know that getting a split is as cardinal a sin as maybe it might have been in years gone by, where
I just think back to the 2015 series, Blake. Calgary scored the late one in game one here, got the early split, knew they were playing without game two. Canucks came back, won game two. And then we went to the Saddledome and Calgary won twice. And we all knew that's it. That's the series. Vancouver's not winning 3 in a row against this team. It didn't. And so, to me, that's the fear here. I mean, I guess the biggest fear is losing both games at home. But if you lose game one here at home, you're back foot already. And, against this team and this sort of talent and playoff experience and everything that the Oilers have, I think you want to be front foot. I think you want to put them in a position where the pressure,
you're talking about holding serve in both games.
Well, certainly game one.
Yeah, I'm with you on game one. I'm just saying, I don't think a game two loss in a split is that actually the end of the world.
Nor do I. I do think a loss in game one is kind of the end of the world. And I wouldn't say that for a lot of series, but when I look at these two teams, I have a lot of trouble seeing the Canucks winning the series if they lose game one.
Yeah. How about don't lose any? That's usually the best.
Well,
option.
The chances are they're going to lose one here.
Really?
I'm just prepping you.
I don't see a Canucks sweep as the option.
Right? Yeah, I would be surprised. How about this? Mayor Ken Sim. He seems to be growing some backbone here. You'll remember a couple of weeks ago, the mayor talked about how he's got to be very careful. And we have a history, and outdoor viewing parties are costly. And he was gripping a little. Mm-hmm. You can tell. I think he's also in the intervening couple of weeks seen municipalities around the Lower Mainland do viewing parties, see viewing parties going on in other NHL Canadian cities, and is probably feeling a little bit of heat and is probably getting the question as he walks around town, hey, Mr. Mayor, how come we can't have what Winnipeg has, what Toronto has, what Edmonton has? So press release Monday, and of course, Rob Williams, the Daily Hive, all over this. This is their beat. The city is very aware of the high interest in places for community to come together to watch the Canucks. The city and partners are exploring potential public viewing opportunities for round 2 and beyond, and we hope to have more to share in the coming week. Well, we're getting pretty late in the day for something for game 1 Wednesday. I do wonder whether the city is looking at the away games 3 and 4 in Edmonton, Sunday and Tuesday, as the time to do the outdoor viewing parties. I'm glad to see this change in position from the mayor and from the city. And I would really like to think that we could pull off these events without any kind of trouble, given the lessons learned specifically in this city.
I think that's a reasonable expectation. I think that the fact that other municipalities have been able to organize them, pull them off, leads you to believe that you could probably do the same.
And as Rob Williams always says, there's a big, massive gray area between the two spectrums here. One, of course, being an outdoor viewing party that gets wholly out of control with criminality.
Mm-hmm.
And the other being that there's no incident or no public viewing party. Most of these things go off without a hitch. Most of these things are done pretty responsibly and with regularity. So I do think we can measure up here, Vancouver, and do one of these. I don't think it's out of our grasp.
No.
Other cities do this all the time.
We gather en masse all the time for many different things.
Yeah. You probably are going to have secure exits and entries. A come one, come all, no borders, no boundaries. That probably isn't going to work.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to need a bigger police presence for sure. You're going to, maybe you require tickets, even if they're not tickets with the cost, but just sign up for 10,000 for whatever it is, gets into the party.
Because the thing is that
it can be done, and I hope it will be.
They do it elsewhere around the world, and guess what? Idiots live there too.
Oh, exactly.
You know,
like think of all the European street festivals. I know you've traveled in Europe quite extensively. Some of the big, massive festivals that everybody pours into the downtown square. You've been to the Palio in Siena.
Yeah.
Looks like madness on television.
And everybody is well lubricated.
Oh, needless to say. So I would like to think that we can do this, and I'm very encouraged by this. I think the city deserves it. I think the city wants this.
Yeah.
And we have a game time for game 3. That was something that was lacking when we...
No other game times outside of game 1 and 2 when they first dropped it.
Yeah, which was lacking. So now we know it's a 6:30 Pacific start for Sunday's game 3 in Edmonton. Although we say 6:30, it's many minutes after that.
That's still later than I expected. I thought it'd be a 5 o'clock.
I was wondering that too. I thought you would have a matinee U.S. game there,
mm-hmm.
and then the Canucks and Oilers would fill the backside of that and be late afternoon. But 6:30.
I was hoping a little later so we could hear the rest of Eastern Canada whining about the start time.
I just don't think they would have watched Grady. You know, I think they would have just skipped game
all
3.
Canadian.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be
Sunday
interesting.
night.
It's going to be interesting to see what the ratings are here for the series because
best player in the world still playing in it.
Best player,
Yep.
and I
All
think
Canadian matchup.
John Shannon explained to us on Monday that the Oilers' crest to some degree plays nationally because of the history of the club with Gretzky, and McDavid plays nationally because he's the best player in the world. So you got a little bit of that going on. You have the second biggest market, certainly English language market in the country involved here with the Canucks. And, you know, if Ryan Whitney's right, a team that people like to hate and hate watch, and root against. So,
and a hockey market in Edmonton that punches above its weight class for its population.
Oh no, Edmonton is an incredible sports market. Like for me, pound for pound, Edmonton is the best sports market in the country. They support everything sports wise that goes there. And I think what the Leafs were doing like $3 million for those last couple of games. We'll see. We'll see what Vancouver and Edmonton can do by way of national. It's only second round, remember.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, I watched the first round because the first round's fantastic. And if my team's not in it anymore, then tell me when the Stanley Cup final begins. You've got that group as well.
Speaking of 6:30 p.m., this one Eastern time today, draft lottery. Remember when we used to get excited about that?
Vancouver's Macklin Celebrini, the presumptive first overall pick, and it's an incredible list of top 5 teams.
Well, we may not even have to discuss it.
Why?
Because John Buccigross has caused a bit of a sensation here. He arrived on set, took a picture of the set, and tweeted it out. We've arrived. We're ready for the draft lottery. Well, he didn't look at what he had taken a photo of, clearly. And it was the draft board with all the slots slotted with the team. Was it a rehearsal that had nothing to do with anything? Or was it a rehearsal of the actual order that they are about to be drawn in?
Has the draw, but I don't think the draw takes place till later in the day when the dignitaries gather in the room, the scrutineers.
Well, remember, it's late in the day. It's 3:30 p.m. there.
Right, but when's the draft lottery on?
In 3 hours. So we're 3 hours in advance.
No, but there's a lockup where they take your phone away if you're one of the scrutineers. They don't ask them to be there for 4 or 5 hours. So I think that's just a rehearsal.
Anyhow.
Blake, I will bring you back to 2017, Blake. You, me, producer Mike Whittingham, couple members of the Wirtz family are the only people in the United Center. Like literally, the Blackhawks ownership and management is at a table in front of us. And if I'm not mistaken, they had a bit of a crisis that day.
I don't remember.
Something happened.
This is the draft. This is the draft.
This is the draft at the United Center.
Yeah.
Blake and I are in there early, the first 2 on Radio Row. In fact, I'm not even sure we were allowed to be.
Well, we got special permission to get
We got
there.
special permission to do the show. I don't know why. We were doing an early show. And the screen flashes Ryan Kesler trade. Now, he wasn't a Canuck at the time, right?
I don't remember.
He was a Anaheim Duck.
2017,
Yeah, because he had been traded was a couple years earlier. And Blake and Mike and I lose our shit. We're like, oh my God, Kessler's been traded again.
Well, we weren't on the air yet. We were just
It was
prepping.
a massive graphic photo of Ryan Kesler on the big screen with a trade super that comes up.
Yeah.
And we sat there scrambling and calling everybody we knew to see if there was a Kesler trade afoot. And then later found out, no, it was just rehearsals. For whatever reason, the people operating the board chose Ryan Kesler and chose to use that as their mock-up.
So Buccigross has deleted his tweet really quickly as well, but needless to say, people took photos of it.
I don't think it's.
If you want to score at home,
okay. So who's first?
The board went San Jose, Utah, Chicago, Anaheim, Columbus in the top 5.
Okay.
Montreal, Ottawa, 6.
So that would be Arizona jumping, or Arizona now Utah jumping. From 6 to 2. That would be the only change in that board, knocking Chicago down.
Yeah.
But here are the stakes for Macklin Celebrini. San Jose, you go home, so to speak. The Celebrini family has been in the Bay Area since Rick has taken over as VP of Health and Sports Science with the Golden State Warriors. Macklin played for the San Jose Junior Sharks. Chicago, you join the other Vancouver phenom, Connor Bedard, in the Windy City. Anaheim, you join that terrific collection of young offensive.
A lot of young players there,
players, and I would suspect, because Pat Verbeek is on record as saying he absolutely must get a top top 4 right shot defensemen this offseason. I would suspect that one of those young forwards could be in play as he looks to, if he gets Celebrini. Columbus, you can be the next Rick Nash, save the franchise there. Or Blake, Montreal.
That'd be good too.
The
There's a
Canadian
lot of young
kid,
talent there too.
Stepping in to be the number 1 centerman for the Montreal Canadiens, the most decorated franchise in the NHL, playing alongside another first overall in Slavkovsky, right?
Yeah. That'd be a pretty
he would
fabulous
be an
duo.
Absolute superstar in Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
Or Utah, where you become the
face of the franchise.
The face of the franchise. Anyways. Looking forward to seeing how the draft lottery goes and where Macklin celebrates.
Yeah, and if
I was
in trouble or not.
I was texting with him a couple of weeks. I said, "How after congratulations, Hobie Baker, great season, blah blah blah. What you up to?" He said, "I'm in Montreal watching a teammate play, Lane Hudson, the defenseman. So he would also reunite there if it's the Habs tonight."
And he's on his way home from the World. So
yeah. We've been telling you about the playoff parlay challenge here with the Daily Face-Off. Each game day, you answer 4 questions, pick the winning team, guess what points will be over under, predict the first goal, choose the highest scoring period. Daily winners snag gift cards. Winners of each round, pocket cash. Get there, games.dailyfaceoff.com. Let's get to today's menu on what is a busy show.
Playoff size show.
Oh, very much so. And the menu brought to you by Ben Moss Jewelers. Ben Moss Jewelers, proudly Canadian owned, operated, history dating back more than 100 years. 5 locations in British Columbia, including Willowbrook and Langley, Coquitlam Center. Committed to customer satisfaction. Check out the large selection Canadian mined diamonds, lab-grown diamonds. These mined diamonds available with payment plans to suit your needs. For more information, check out benmoss.com. Ben Moss, shine bright. Mason Raymond's going to join us here. Former Vancouver Canuck, Alberta boy. He's in town. He's going to the game on Wednesday. Southern Alberta boy, right.
No love lost for oil country.
May very well feature into the pregame on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Frank Corrado joins us.
We've had a habit of this, bringing an ex-Canuck and they get
lo
involved
and behold,
in pregame.
then they're involved in the
Kessler?
Frank Corrado's going to join us with his breakdown of the series, and then we'll go behind enemy lines. Jason Gregor, a longtime sports talk radio host, so if the Daily Face-Off, going to catch us up on the Edmonton Oilers and what they're looking like as they go through final preparations prior to game 1 here in Vancouver. They practiced in Edmonton today and will be making their way here if they're not already.
Mm-hmm.
Time now for our Bet365 Best Bets, a segment brought to you by Bet365, stands to reason, proud partner of Sekeres Price. So we saw what happened in game 1, Florida-Boston, right? Where Boston just took the momentum. They were playing, maybe Florida a little rusty, and they rolled Saturday's game 7 win over the Leafs into a quick turnaround win in game 1 against the Panthers. I'm betting the same happens with Dallas tonight against Colorado. But as the favorite, I don't just want to bet them straight up. I'm going to bet them on the spread. Dallas minus 1.5 goals. So maybe an empty netter, maybe just 2-goal win. Paying at plus 195.
I'm going to anytime goal scorer, and I don't go. Nathan McKinnon is almost even money. So I'm going Mikko Rantanen for a little bit more value. Plus 135 is an anytime goal scorer in game number 1.
Bet365, open an account today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. At Bet365, use code VANBONUS, all together, all one word. Mason Raymond coming up next. Everybody knows about the overdose crisis, also known as the toxic drug crisis.
But what's less known is that the stigma around addiction makes it harder to ask for help.
And that's got to stop. Addiction is a complex health condition, not a choice.
Right, and that means people shouldn't have to face judgment at work or from their loved ones or fear the law.
But shame or stigma can cause a person to hide their drug use or use alone.
And we don't want that. People shouldn't be afraid to reach out.
There are supports available, and it helps to know where to start.
The government of BC is partnering with organizations like Sekeres Price to help extend this message throughout our province.
If you or someone you know is struggling, you can find supports and services near you at helpstartshere.gov.bc.ca. You can also watch powerful real-life stories of recovery on the Help Starts Here website. Our next guest, well, I think we've found the guy who is rooting for the Vancouver Canucks the hardest, because he played 425 games for the Canucks, including 51 in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and he's a Southern Alberta boy. So it's a delight to welcome back to the program Mason Raymond, former Vancouver Canuck. How you doing, buddy?
Morning, guys. Doing great. Thanks for having me.
You're more welcome, and we find you in Vancouver here from your Southern Alberta home.
Beautiful Vancouver. Popped in last night. Yeah, spending the day here. We got some great weather. So, yeah, looking forward to being around this vibe. I know it's been exciting, right? It's been many years since this city has craved a good hockey team and a playoff cup team. So, fun to be a part of and fun to be in town for.
And for those who don't know, Mason is a regular visitor to the city here as he gets work done on his back and on his body in his post-playing career. How much did you take in of the Nashville series, Mason?
You know, not enough, never as much. I guess life gets busy with work and kids sports, but, you know, following along, checking scores more than not and being on top of it. Of course, Vancouver is a team I follow very closely, but, you know, from an actual watching perspective, no, but, you know, exciting. It was so exciting to see, you know, didn't close out in 5, but was able to close out in 6 and watch the third period there of game 6. And, again, my son is a very passionate fan as he was born in Vancouver and is a Canucks fan at heart. So we watched that close, so it went right down to the wire there and scored at the end. So an exciting finish and happy to see them in round 2.
Last time I bumped into you was in a rink in Calgary, actually, and you were part of a tournament there that my kids were in as well. So good to see that they're still rabid hockey fans and all that. You're about to get a taste of, or a reminder, I guess, of what this city looks like come playoff time. Maybe you've been here long enough that you've been able to absorb it a little bit, but between series, I don't think it's at its fever pitch that we saw during the series versus the Predators. You know, do you remember what the city looked like, you know, back in playoff time in the peak of your career?
For sure. You know, I think for me, what's so incredible, what's so exciting is this round 1 just finished and the buzz is exciting, right? And, you know, I've had lots of people and friends and family that have been to the game and sending me videos of the excitement. It's awesome to see. You know, I got in here later last night and started to see the buzz and flags out and people hanging flags from their balconies. And, you know, I seen game 6. I don't know if it was game 3 as well, but I know game 6. I mean, I think the rink was sold out for an away game. You know, that's amazing to see the passion, the excitement, you know, the crave that this city is wanting in a team. So, again, fun to be a part of for so many ways.
What do you remember about the pressure that you felt as a player early in that you know, playoff run? You know, first, second round. Well, what's that pressure like? Because you don't even know where you're headed yet, but you know there was expectation.
Absolutely. I mean, I think ours was unique in the fact that we beat Chicago in 7, right? We were up 3-1, and you know, we won game 7, and that was Slay the Dragon with Alex Burrows. But you know, pressure's a privilege. You always say it's an exciting thing. It's a Canadian market, but you know, you never know. You get through round 1, you get to round 2, all of a sudden you finish round 3 and you continue on, right? But you know, the pressure was awesome in some regard. I know that kind of sounds funny, and some guys like it, some guys don't. But Canadian market, what else more could you want, right? You live for this. Playoff hockey, it's beautiful outside. Fans are going crazy. This is what it's all about. I think we all forget on how tough it is to get to the playoffs. In the format nowadays as well. I mean, there's great teams playing in matchups in the first round all the way through. So best time of year, nothing beats it. As we say, what's the hardest trophy to win in sports? It's the Stanley Cup. And, you know, you go through 4 rounds, seven round series. It's awesome.
Good teams got eliminated this year. Like
yeah,
teams
well, especially in
yeah.
this format too, which is of course different than when the Canucks were playing back in 2011. Hey, we've talked to Kessler, we've talked to Lapierre. They were both very much charmed that Streets Have No Name is back as the skate out song. A word or two on them playing the hits here from your heyday as the team takes the ice at Rogers Arena.
Say that one more time. Sorry, what songs?
The Streets Have No Name, you too. They brought it back.
Oh,
the skate.
They got her back rocking. Yeah, well, I mean, again, the vibe, everything that's there. Again, the music's amazing, right? I mean, that's all part of the whole thing of being in a market that loves hockey and that gets you going. I mean, again, the towel power, everything that's there, that's what players thrive on. You know, you talk about the pressure, you talk about playing in the Canadian market, there's nothing better. I mean, that's the excitement. You want to be going around town here and be the thing to talk about and be in front of it. I mean, again, for me, I was very fortunate in my 10-year career to spend, 9 of those basically in Canadian markets. And none were better really than playing the playoffs that I was able to here in Vancouver. So again, amazing thrill. It's awesome. All the tunes, whatever it is, whatever gets you going, let it rip.
Do you remember having to calm yourself down early in a hockey game after an entrance like that and the crowd going crazy? Like, do you remember the first couple of shifts, or did you just try to get through the first couple of shifts before you settled down a little bit?
Well, we used to joke you had to take a breath and warm up. You were so fired up for warm up. The fans are there, the excitement. You didn't want to spend all your energy in warm up, but you're running on adrenaline. And again, you talk about home ice advantage, right? That's a huge thing. You want to use that to your advantage and get out to good starts and fuel off the crowd and everything. So, you took your breaths. I mean, I remember national anthems. It was just like the excitement. Again, I can think of the towel power and it's going around, and all the fluff was flying around out there as you're kind of standing in the national anthem. But again, you use that to your advantage, right? Even when you're on the road, whatnot. I mean, playoff hockey is a special time. It's another level. The rink's louder. It's the best time of play.
How do you think they can do against these Oilers? It's a mighty challenge.
Yeah, definitely. Canadian matchup, gotta love that too, right? Close to the thing. I've always said you need goaltending, right? Doesn't matter who you're playing, you need some good goaltending, and you need your depth players. You need your big guys playing well, always. You need your depth players doing what they do. But, having home ice advantage, you work for it all season. We just talked about it, right? That's a big key. So you want to get out of the gates well, do well. I mean, obviously the Oilers got some high power offense, right? David, Draisaitl, they got some deep, some depth scoring there. So, who I'm rooting for? I want those Canucks to get out to a great start and do well and keep driving what's going on in this city. So it's going to be a great matchup and look forward to seeing it unfold.
Hey, put your penalty killing hat on for me. And you were a good one here. How do you stop this power play, or how do you begin to even stop this Oilers power play, Mason?
The best way to kill a penalty is don't take penalties. That's easier said than done, of course. But, the game has changed, too, from when I played as far as how the puck moves around and the breakouts and how they're zipping it around. But, you try to take away time and space. But, simply said is I just stay out of the box, right? Specialty teams can win and lose hockey games all season long. I mean, people on the Toronto Maple Leafs, I heard a stat. They were 1 for 22 on the power play, right? So, again, you give the Edmonton Oilers the likes of some power plays, they can make you pay, and they can put you in a tough spot. So, you want to obviously the cue is going to be on those top players and special teams, but staying out of the box is always the best way to kill the penalty.
We know you're busy. You got to run. Last question here. Who do you stay connected with here with the franchise?
For players wise, I mean, again, Alex Burrows, Luongo, all the guys. I mean, again, we had such a great group, right? That 2011 run was over 10 plus years ago, but yet we still all stay in contact and go. From the franchise, the organization story standpoint, so many. There's still some great people that have been here and connect with. So the list goes on. But Ryan Johnson, one that comes to top of mind here. Ryan is now an assistant GM and see them. But Dan Murphy, through the media, through lots of people that have been through my time, it's great to come back down memory lane and be a part of this. So I still feel like I could be out there and helping out the Canucks. I guess I'm old in the hockey world. I'm 38 now, but still feel good and proud to have played for this team and cheer for this team. So great to be in town and looking forward to the whole festivities that come with it.
Yeah, you'll be there. You'll be there tomorrow night, right?
Yep.
I'll be there. You bet.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Yeah. Well, talk about great people. You're one of the best, Mason. Thanks for the time. Great to see your face, hear your voice again. Enjoy your time here in Vancouver, and all the best when you get back to Alberta.
Thanks, Mason.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Hey, everybody. If you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.
Northlands Golf Course. Download the free app and book tee times with a touch of your thumb. And while you're on course, open the app for hole-by-hole GPS and track your score. 6 to 90-day reservations. Jump the queue. Lock in your date for $10 per player booking fee. Limited daily availability. Check it all out. golfnorthlands.com.
The Vancouver Canadians are back at the Nat. Catch fireworks, giveaways, and Friday nooners all spring and summer long. Get your tickets at CanadiansBaseball.com.
Our next guest brought to you by the Arnold Palmer Design Whistler Golf Club. Counting down to opening day on Friday, everybody. Friday we open at the Whistler Golf Club, and the club reminds organizers, groups of 12 or more, it is time to reach out, lock in those 2024 tee times. The pride times are filling up fast, and just for reaching out to hold the tee times, you, the group organizer, plays for free. Whistler Golf Club takes care of the rest. Tell us about your group at whistlergolf.com/groups. Frank Corrado is a former Vancouver Canuck and TSN hockey analyst, and he's here to break down the second round of the Oilers and Canucks with us. How you doing, Frank?
I'm good. What's happening?
Got you on a show with your old friend Mason Raymond.
One of the best. One of the best. He probably still looks like he's 21 too.
He does.
He sure does.
Very disappointing.
Yeah.
He does not age.
Yeah.
It's
He was out there. I was out at the Canucks Autism Network alumni tournament earlier in the year. It was nice to catch up with him.
Was he taking a twirl? Was he on the skates?
Yeah, he went no shoulder pads though.
Interesting.
Yeah, full beer league mode there. But I had wheels on my hockey bag, so that's probably worse.
Beautiful skater, I'll say that. I imagine he still looks pretty good out there skating.
Yeah.
Nobody twirls his bag quite like Corrado, though, with those wheels on it. My goodness, the agility, the edge work of the bag.
Oh, yeah.
It's
You can hear that thing coming from a mile away.
Best bag twirler in the league. Okay, just first, big picture thoughts on this series.
Okay. The Canucks are now into the Edmonton Oilers territory. Like, they're swimming with the Sharks. Edmonton is here every year, and like they know this, and they're trying to get over the hump. Vancouver is new to this. How are the Canucks going to slow down McDavid and Draisaitl? I know the regular season was what it was, but this is totally different. And I guess I'm curious to see how the big Canucks defensemen do against the top players for Edmonton, because Vegas had that last year. The thing that Vegas had that the Canucks don't necessarily have for me to match it is Vegas had the big D, but they had the center ice position for Vegas was really hard to play against. And I think like Vancouver has it a little bit in JT Miller. They have it in Teddy Bluger. I'm not convinced it's as robust as Vegas was last year. That remains to be seen. But that is an intriguing matchup that I want to see. The other thing that I'm kind of thinking of is like EP40's got to show up here. Like you're not, there's no way you're going head to head with those two, McDavid and Draisaitl and company, and EP40. Like he has to play big time hockey. And he wasn't really like, he never really got even close to that in the Nashville series. And I think the Canucks are going to have their hands full. Like, I think it's going to be a very challenging series for them. Can they put up a good fight? Yes, of course they can. But this, like, it can be a very overwhelming series, I think.
So what would be the routes to victory in the series for the Canucks, Frankie? What way you mentioned Pettersson has to show up and play big time hockey, needless to say. What else has to happen for the Canucks to win the series?
If we are sitting here in a couple weeks' time and the Canucks won the series, Stuart Skinner probably played horribly. Like that's got to be, you have to get to Stuart Skinner. You have to find a way to bring out the Skinner that the Oilers had last year in the playoffs, the guy that got pulled 4 or 5 times, that guy. And, you can't just bank on that happening because he's played better. And he seems like he's had some bounce back games when he's had a bad one. But if the Canucks can find a way to bring that out, that will be something we'll be talking about. The other thing is, and good luck with this, don't let the Oilers power play beat you. How would you do that? I don't know. Don't take penalties, because that power play is like incredible. So I don't know how, like, it's going to be very difficult to do that. I don't know, like the other thing, it would just be that the Canucks tried to really assert themselves physically over the Oilers. Like maybe that's a way they can go about doing things. But I just think it's going to be difficult. Any way you slice it, it's going to be really hard.
The Canucks centers have figured out how to play defensive hockey, I think. The question is who's, it's different when you got to cover McDavid. It's just different than covering anybody else in the league. I suspect they'll start with JT Miller. I think Lindholm's a possibility, which means that Elias Pettersson probably doesn't get leaned on to be a cover center in any way, shape, or form, matchup center in any way, shape, or form. does that combine with the fact that he gets this new lease on life with a new series, does that reset help him, do you think he uses that?
I don't know if he would be thinking about that. Like, I think his thought process is going to be more internal than external. Like, I'm not convinced that he's going to sit there and say, well, I hope I get an easy matchup, because that might allow me to have a little more room. But that might just be the reality of it. Like, with the way things flow and when the lines start getting matched, like, that just might be the way it flows for him. And maybe he does get a little more room. Certainly could be the case. But if that is the case, then it can't just be, you're sawed off with whoever you're going up against. Like, whoever Edmonton is going to have as their, third line center, or whoever's going to get that matchup. Like, the Oilers are pretty versatile now. They're more versatile than they ever have been. Like, Adam Henrique, who I think is skating and practicing, like, he could play first line wing. He could play third line center. Nugent Hopkins could be the third line center. Like, there's a lot of moving parts for Edmonton. So I really think, like, if Pettersson is gonna, bank on, well, I'm gonna get this or I'm gonna get that, like, it can change so quickly. And Knobloch is one of those coaches, like, he will adjust on the fly. He's not afraid to mix up his lines. But I think it's one of those things for Pettersson where if you are getting a favorable matchup, it can't be sawed off. It's got to be like, you're at 75% of the expected goals on any given night. It has to be, because the other ones, the other matchups, they're going to be working their asses off just to saw that off at 5-on-5 and hope that they don't convert on the power play. Like, I think it's going to be quite a truck for the centerman in this series.
How do you avoid chasing McDavid, especially on the power play, but at any point? How do you avoid, not just chasing, because it just feels like you should, but of course you're never going to catch him.
I think so. If watching last year's series between Vegas and Edmonton, at any time, if you had a PVR and you hit the pause button and McDavid was on the ice, you could count 5 Vegas sweaters in your frame. It was just like, it wasn't like they were all on top of him, but they were all in your screen and he was in your screen. So think about that. If you
like a black hole sucking matter towards him.
It's like a 45-second. You follow that shift along. You pause it. There's 5 Vegas sweaters. Pause it again. And it's like that mentality where it was like just suffocating to be on top of him. And you have to have guys that can skate with him, which I think the Canucks do. Like they McDavid has that separating speed for sure, but they have guys who can skate with him up front. Like, you have to have the horsepower to go with it. You have to play a little more of a patient style of game. But here's another good example for you. Like, LA, they rolled out Kopitar, they rolled out Danault. Dubois wasn't much of a factor in that series, but we'll focus on Kopitar and Danault. I think a lot of people, if you were building a team and you said, give me who your, third line matchup center would be in a perfect world, you could pick anyone in the league. Those guys would get some play for sure, right? Like, 2 of the best matchup centers in the NHL. McDavid, they disposed of those guys. So it's not going to be like a one centerman on top of him type deal. It's not going to be what Cole Castles was in the Ontario Hockey League for Oshawa playing against the Erie Otters. I love Cole Castles, by the way. You know what I mean? Like, it really has to be like, if you're on the ice with McDavid in a 5-man unit, yes, it's got to be physical. Yes, it's got to be mean, but more importantly, it's got to be near him. It's got to be 5 players, like, not giving him that time and space to really separate, because at 5-on-5 last year, Vegas, like, it felt like it was harder for him than other teams have made it. Like, he still found a way to get points, though. Like, I think that's the crazy thing. As much as they really focused in on him and it was hard at 5-on-5, he still found a way, which is crazy. He's out of this world.
Did you remember that Cole Castles was drafted by the Canucks, and that everybody
That's
thought
why I said that.
Everybody at the time thought that you've drafted the kryptonite for McDavid. We can use this for years to come.
He's a buddy of mine. He's a buddy of mine. We used to train together in the summers, and then we actually reunited with the Belleville Senators. So,
and
shut down center.
Cole had a pretty good year.
It's not a bad year.
Barracuda.
Yeah.
You talk about 5 Golden Knights in the frame. That's what the Canucks do. They play team defense. And in fact, like, it was that sort of smothering that got McDavid off his game and losing his cool and taking bad penalties in a couple of the 4 games that they played earlier in the season. What do you think? Would you poke the bear here? Would you see if you can get McDavid off his game, get him emotionally, psychologically disrupted if you could?
100%. Absolutely. I don't think McDavid is one of those guys that you could say, let him sleep. You want to let McDavid sleep, he'll go off for 5 points. Like he's a self-starter. So I do think you need to find ways to frustrate him. And the thing about McDavid now more than ever, and I think we started seeing this last year too, he'll go right up to you and cross-check you right in the face. Like he has become a little retaliatory. And he doesn't always get called on it because I think he takes a lot himself. But I think you have to let him know right from the start of the series that it's not going to be pleasant. It's not going to be fun. And, they're going to be in his face at any possible opportunity they can. But, it is interesting though with the Oilers because, in the past, I feel like it was shut down McDavid, maybe, limit Draisaitl, probably got a good chance at winning that series. Like they are different. They're deeper than they ever have been. Zach Hyman, as much as McDavid, really catapulted Zach Hyman, he scored over 50 goals this year. Nugent Hopkins was a 100-point player 2 years ago. Evander Kane, when he's on his game, is a very good playoff performer. Like you kind of go down the list here. I think those like Warren Fogle and Ryan McLeod are two good players as well, lower in the lineup. So they're deeper than they ever have been. But of course, the focal point always and will be McDavid. And you got to be all over him. Like, just don't let him think that it's going to be one of those things where he's going to skate end to end and have a field day. See if you can get that frustration out of him as soon as possible.
What do you make of the Silovs story?
Amazing. Amazing. Good for him. There's something so cool about a guy who gets sprung into this situation and he's just naive to everything. It's not that he's got no idea what it is. Like, what's happening, but you don't think about the consequences to failure. You're just out there playing and you're in the moment and you're happy and you're living your dream. I get that sense with him. I just think he's naive to everything that's involved in this. And it's really cool. And as far as the goaltending matchup goes, if this was Thatcher Demco versus Stuart Skinner, we'd be talking about Demko has an opportunity to steal the series.
Yeah.
Like that's how good he is. And I don't think we're going to be talking about that with Silovs, but we probably will say that, on certain nights, Vancouver had the better goaltending. It's just how much better can it be? And how much can they, kind of impede Stuart Skinner and see if they can chase him from the net? Because he's improved this year for sure. And especially on games where he's had a bad one, he seems to bounce back fairly quickly. But I think maybe just knowing that there's that little seed of doubt that like we can get this guy. We can bring out what was ailing him last year. Might be easier said than done, but I think the goaltending matchup might still at times favor Vancouver if Silovs is still playing the way he played, to finish off the Nashville series.
But even if he turns into a pumpkin, Casey DeSmith is now 100% healthy, and he's given them some quality goaltending as well, right?
Yeah, you know what? It's a good point. And I think more like the goaltending is going to be important for sure. But the team defense that Vancouver played in that first round, like if not the best in the first round, like the amount of high danger chances that they were able to limit, like they did, that was really, really impressive stuff. But it's not O'Reilly, it's not Forsberg anymore. Like we're talking about top 5 players in the NHL now. So that goes hand in hand with the goaltending for me. As much as you can make things easier for the goaltender can make things easier on you and keep you out of the video room and all that kind of stuff. But where Edmonton is coming from, they played against LA. I think we always think of LA as this really good defensive team because they don't have any offense. So it's like, oh, they're really good defensively, which, they are a good defensive team for sure. But the Canucks skated laps around what LA was doing defensively in the first round. So as much as we talk about Edmonton being a big test for Vancouver, this is going to be a step up defensively for what the Oilers are going to see compared to from LA to now versus Vancouver.
You've seen tempers flare and the venom grow in playoff series before. I can't help but think that, what's happening off the ice amongst fan bases and media is going to find its way onto the ice. And this series is going to go off in some way, shapes, or forms. And one guy, maybe it's the Canucks crest, maybe it's just Ryan Kessler's face, and he's not around a lot right now. But Corey Perry, is Corey Perry going to do Corey Perry things in this series because he can't help but Corey Perry?
I think that's just how he is.
Yeah.
Is he going to cross the line? I don't think Corey Perry has been crossing the line that much recently.
No, not recently. You're right. Yeah.
Like it almost
not on the ice anyway.
No, yeah, for sure. It almost seems like he's just playing hockey. Like he's going in the front of the net and he's standing there and he's kind of taking his time to leave. And, he'll give you a little stick in the back of the legs. But I don't know. We just went through a first round of the playoffs. And I don't remember one memorable Corey Perry getting under the skin moment that we had to see the next day. And it just felt like he was out there playing.
He might be saving it for this one.
He might be saving it, or it might be one of those things where like he's managing the game a little bit different. Like I don't know, maybe he's approaching things a little differently. But you do know that if Vancouver starts to take leads, if Vancouver maybe pulls away at some point in the series, the worm Corey Perry's coming right back, and he's going to do something, because that's maybe it's one of those things where you only do it as needed. And maybe it really wasn't needed against LA, because it just felt like it was in cruise control for Edmonton the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Skinner and his struggles last year getting pulled from those games. What's the book on him, Frank? What would you do to make life miserable for Stuart Skinner?
I think it's the same for every single goalie. Like it's, you could read a script, take away his eyes, get tips, get him moving side to side, all that kind of stuff. That stuff is always going to be up to the opposition. Where his downfall came last year was he was letting in the ones that he should have stopped. And if that happens again, then that's when we're talking about, kind of getting pulled. And how does Vancouver make that happen? Well, obviously you have to create the quality chances and all that stuff. But that wasn't easy to come by against Nashville either. It felt like it was defensively sound both ways. But that's, you just want to plant that little seed of doubt that, we can kind of get you here. Like we can fill the back of the net and maybe we can chase you a couple times. But it feels like it's the same with every single goalie, no matter who it is. And Stuart Skinner's no different than that. And if he's off his game, you'll see that he'll let in a few that he definitely should have had.
Last question for me. Canucks getting enough respect league wide? Like we've started to hear Coach Tocchet talk a little bit about the doubters playing the nobody believed in us stuff, which really they could have played all year, Frankie, and they didn't really go to that well, but heard it a little bit coming out of Sunday's practice. Are they getting enough respect, and you believe in the Vancouver versus everybody card that's available to them here?
I think they are victims of going up against McDavid and the Oilers right now. Like all year long, I think they were victims of, well, they're not for real. PDO. It's not going to last forever. Demco. Like they were victims of that all year. And then we got to a point where it was like, they're actually going to win the Pacific. So they are legit. They are good, and they deserve their flowers. And then I think what happened in the first round, people look at all the matchups and they say, well, there's got to be a few upsets. Can't just pick all the favorites. And then people looked at Vancouver and said, well, they're new and Nashville won a bunch of games, so that's a good candidate for an upset one. And now it's like, okay, you're swimming with the Sharks. You're going against the Oilers, who have like been there, trying to get over the hump, two of the best players in the world, and you're in their territory. And now they're victims of that. So like, I don't know if it's Vancouver not getting enough love. I think it's Vancouver that are just victims of certain circumstances around them that are kind of building those narratives. But like, make no mistake about it. The Canucks, with the way they've played this year, with the way they've assembled their back end, especially, they deserve to be here. They should put up a pretty good fight against the Oilers. I don't imagine this is going to be something where the Oilers steamroll them. I would be shocked if it was like that. But they are in tough. And it's okay to admit that, but they've been victims of the narrative all year long, and all year long they have crushed that narrative, and kudos to them for doing that.
Great stuff, Frank. Thank you for the time. We will catch up next week, my friend. Enjoy the games.
Yeah, you too. We'll talk.
Hey, everybody. If you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about?
Hey, you. No, not you. You. Are you an owner operator? You have a fleet of trucks or cars? Well, CalPro Plus might be the dedicated tire program just for you.
Free program includes exclusive deals and savings, price match guarantee, flexible financing, and preferred pricing on everything you drive.
Also, you get a dedicated member support line. That means that you can get questions answered. Also, they'll source and recommend the right tire for you, your application, and your budget.
Cal Tire's network of 260 plus stores are here to help so you can focus on the road ahead. Sign up for free at calproplus.com.
In a season like this, you never want to miss a single second of what's happening on the ice, and you want to be around your fellow fans, right? Well, Greta Bar YVR at 50 West Cordova, the perfect spot to do so. Hey, if you've got tickets, a great place to pre and post. They've got drink specials every single day. And if you don't have tickets, well, stick around and soak up the atmosphere with all your fellow fans, play all the great video games and air hockey, great air hockey setup as well at Greta Bar YVR. We'll see you there, 50 West Cordova.
Our next guest is the co-host of the Daily Face-Off podcast, and we know them. He's a longtime sports talk radio host in Edmonton, currently with Sports 1440. It's our pleasure to welcome Jason Gregor to the program. How you doing?
Matty, living the dream, buddy. Just sitting here in the practice facility, waiting patiently for this never delayed series to finally begin. So it should be good.
Yeah, we got a lot of build up here. Well, first of all, talk to us about practice. Kane practicing, Henrique not. Is that?
News? Kane's on the ice. That's not a surprise. You know what? He's been dealing with something nagging, but he'll play. Yesterday, Knobloch said he was hoping Henrique would skate, but the fact that he hasn't skated, like he got injured late in Game 5. To me now, obviously it's playoffs. It's, you know what? The caramel secret's easier to find than an injury update.
Good reference. Wow.
But when I saw Henrique, to me it looked like, you know, like an ankle injury or a knee. But again, that's speculation on my part. I don't know 100%. But, you know, usually if it's an upper body, a guy can skate a little bit, right? The fact that he hasn't skated suggests to me it's something lower body with him. And you know what? He's a really good complementary player, right? He's another 20-goal scorer. He's come in. He's played very well for Edmonton. I think he was exactly what they wanted. A guy who's good offensively, but incredibly reliable defensively. And that's the difference for the Oilers now. They're not the team that can throw a grenade in their own zone and just explode like they beat themselves in the past. They become much more responsible. So, you know, Janmark's skating on that line. He has been for the last 4 days. And, you know, he's basically a less offensively skilled Adam Henrique, right? Mm-hmm. He's super smart. He's reliable. He's a good penalty killer. So I'm not surprised if he ends up taking his spot for a game because McDavid doesn't really need a lot of help. Him and Hyman know how to score, right? They want to have guys out there that can be reliable defensively.
And Edmonton with such enviable depth at center that Henrique had been playing on a wing, and even Nugent Hopkins doesn't have to center a line because of all the guys they can play the middle. You're expecting McLeod, Holloway, and Perry as the third line, Jason, and is that the line we think is going to see a lot of the Elias Pettersson line?
Yeah, you know what? See, a lot of people, when they like Dylan Holloway, they're like, he's kind of the shiny new toy. He's a young player, he's really fast. And, you know, some people think he would play there, but this is the playoff, guys. And I don't know if Holloway's there ready just yet, right? Like he did score 2 goals in Game 2, but in the 4 wins, you know what? He was just kind of like another guy. And that's not a knock on him at all. He's a young player who I think has got a real high ceiling moving forward, but you're entering the second round of the playoffs. You guys know how coaches work. Coaches, and I don't care what sport you're in, when the coach looks at the lineup and is like, I know exactly what I get from this guy, I'm going to play him. So I think you'll see Holloway get a few shifts there, guys. Specifically, what happens in Chris Knobloch, since he's come in, he really utilizes his entire bench. So on his penalty kill, he'll have 3 units of penalty killers, right? He goes A, B, C, 6 guys. Then he comes out of the power play, the opposing team's power play, and he runs McDavid, Hyman, and Draisaitl. Then he runs his next 3 forwards, Evander Kane, the other guys, this case Fogle, guys who don't penalty kill, right? And that's what he does. So I think you might see Holloway, because Janmark's one of the 6 penalty killers, although it's Draisaitl, McDavid, Hyman, you'll probably see Holloway maybe get an odd shift there. Knobloch is not a coach who just goes line A, B, C, D, and I just stick with them all game. So I think you'll see Holloway get a few shifts there, guys, but I'd be surprised if he's the guy who's going to move up there, at least to start the series. Knobloch is not afraid to mix it up.
But to the second part of the question, McLeod versus Pettersson, do you see that being the matchup down the middle?
Well, I think in Vancouver for sure, right? Like I think Vancouver wants Miller and Lindholm against McDavid and Draisaitl, right? Based on how Pettersson played in the first round. Plus, I don't think Edmonton's going to shy away from that matchup. McLeod's speed. McLeod is a guy who he doesn't bring you a ton of offense, but he's pretty reliable defensively. And his speed is a real asset, right? And so when I look at Vancouver's lines, because, now we've seen Lindholm, obviously it was a different team, but Draisaitl kind of ate his lunch a few years ago against Calgary. So, we'll see. But I would think Vancouver anyway, and talking to guys in Edmonton, I think Edmonton's expecting Miller Lindholm to start McDavid Draisaitl, which in theory, if you're Vancouver, hey, Elias Pettersson, if we're going to win the series, he's got to produce, right? Like, I don't think Vancouver has a hope to win this series if Elias Pettersson, is as unproductive as he was in the first round. Or really, as Matt said yesterday on my show, if he could just hit a few empty nets, all of a sudden he probably doesn't look that unproductive.
In terms of the juggling throughout the game, McDavid and Draisaitl together at times still at 5-on-5, or does he save that just for the power play?
No, if you look in the first series, McDavid played 79 minutes 5-on-5. Him and Draisaitl played 8 minutes together. They don't play together, but they really play together, guys. The first shift after the opposing team has a power play.
And
that's it.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's they run their guns. You know what? Draisaitl's an elite player. Draisaitl was the Oilers MVP in my eyes in the first series. He was unbelievable offensively, scores goals. You know what? You look at their defensive zone starts between Draisaitl and McDavid. It's massively favored Draisaitl. He takes the key draws, right? Like he to me is the unicorn of the superstars in the NHL. Look at Nathan McKinnon. He's an unreal player. He's terrible in faceoffs. He's 45%. Draisaitl, he went up against Kopitar. So those two guys were top 4 in faceoff percentage in the first round. They went head-to-head, 47 draws. So against everybody else, both of them dominated, right? Because it was Draisaitl won 24 of 47. But no, he's on his own line. Him, Kane, and Nugent Hopkins are a line. You know what? It's a big line with Draisaitl and Kane. It's a fast line, and it's obviously a gifted offensive line. So don't expect a lot of McDavid, Draisaitl together. Now, they didn't trail LA a ton, guys, so maybe that might play into it. But even in game 2, when they were trailing for a bit, he's still stuck with those guys separate.
Canucks won a game with just 12 shots. Oilers needed 13 to win a game. But he's had a template to how to beat the Oilers. What happened in that game that kept the Oilers with this high-octane offense? How did the Oilers only get 13 shots? Is there something for the Canucks to exploit there? Or is there extenuating circumstances, do you think?
It's interesting about the Oilers. They are a high octane offense, but since Chris Knobloch came in, they're top 5 in goals against, right? Like they finally figured out, guys, that to win in the playoffs, you have to be good defensively 5-on-5. Now, I think Edmonton scored the second most goals in the first round 5-on-5, but they also allowed 12 goals 5-on-5 to LA, right? When I look at them and what happened in Edmonton in that 1-0 game, LA had a ton of shots, but you guys, I watched your series and you guys watched it closer than I did. Sometimes, there's shots that they don't really mean anything, right? Yeah. Like it's outside. Edmonton allowed LA to stay on the perimeter. It was Sport Logic, I think, had the scoring chances 7-4 in favor of Edmonton, high danger, even though they only had 13 shots and LA had 33. So Edmonton
had some nights like that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they can play better defensively. Like I think, obviously Vancouver and the Oilers, kind of sucks with the schedule. They've only met once in the last 69 games of the season, right? And McDavid didn't play in that game. So I don't, the regular season to me, I haven't put much into it. I even look at Vancouver. You guys saw them, they were scoring at will, right? There was Matt Sekeres going 1-on-1 against Blake Price on the court, right? Matty was just dunking all day on him. And
why you got to do me like that? Are you kidding me?
You look at in those early games in the season, the Canucks were just lighting up the Oilers, right? in a weird way, the Canucks' domination over the Oilers early on is maybe why Edmonton's good, because that forced them to make the coaching change. And Knobloch and Paul Coffey, like Coffey has made such a difference to how they approach the game with his defensemen. He doesn't want Vinny Desharnais, like your third pair D-man, is the defensive guy. Coffey's like, you make plays, you pass the puck, and you can do it. And he showed him video. So, you know what? I look at Edmonton, they are high octane guys, but this series, I know how Vancouver plays. I won't be surprised if we see some low scoring games, which personally I hate. I'm all offense, but I think we might see a few 1-0, 2-1 games.
You know, it's funny. You're the second person to mention Paul Coffey and his effect on the defense and how they've been more defensive. And I just, my galaxy brain stuff for me. I can't put it together as I remember Coffey being such a great offensive defenseman as a player. Okay, so here's the big question, Gregor. Tell me, Oilers are overconfident and taking the Canucks lightly, right? You've seen tons of signs of that over the last 48 hours, right?
Can you repeat that? It's so loud in here. I didn't hear the last part.
The Oilers, they're totally overconfident and taking the Canucks very lightly, right? You've seen all signs of that.
Yeah, I've seen all the betting odds. I'm sure you guys have seen everybody. What was the ESPN? Lots of people are picking Edmonton to win. And I understand why they're picking. I don't think they're overconfident, but is a player ever going to tell you they shouldn't be overconfident? I'll say that, right? Like Vancouver, I think, is going to present a much tougher test than LA did in a variety of reasons. Just on special teams, like the Oilers absolutely obliterated LA on special teams. And guys, I don't know how much of the series you watched close, but it was kind of embarrassing that LA was just so stubborn on their special teams and they didn't change anything, right? Like, so let's start with the difference in Vancouver's power play to LA's power play. So LA like to have it. They'd run Doughty on the top like you run Hughes, but it's a righty to a lefty. And so it takes Doughty longer times to go to that right side. Hughes is a lefty. You can go quickly or over to Pettersson for the one time, right? Or Hughes is willing to take what we call the Hughes sifter. He's very good at it. It's like Nick Lidstrom. He's on the blue line. He'll walk it. Boom. He doesn't bomb one like Bouchard, but he'll get it on net, and it creates chaos. LA just didn't do it. Drew Doughty refused to shoot the puck. Yeah. So I don't think Edmonton is going to be overconfident. I don't think they should, because I think, Vancouver's penalty kill is going to be much more aggressive. Like, LA didn't really pressure. It was stunning to me. Like, the coach came out and said, hey, one team executed on special teams and one didn't. I'm like, well, yeah, no shit. Your team didn't adjust. Like, they allowed the Oilers, because Draisaitl wins. I think he won 18 of 26 faceoffs on the power play. And they would want it. And it's always on the left side, right? Because you get to pick where you want to draw. He wins it on his backhand over to McDavid to Bouchard, and they have set plays. And LA didn't pressure once. Just like, what are you doing? And so I do know, I talked to Glenn Galton. He's like, hey, the one thing I know, Vancouver's penalty killers are going to pressure us way more. We have to be ready for that.
The Venom's already started between the fan bases. How heated does it get out on the ice there? Do you think this one looks like a Smythe Division showdown?
Well, you know what? It's funny that Edmonton, and I wrote about this the other day, Edmonton and Vancouver, like, there's really no, like, I know there's the online stuff, guys, but there's really no rivalry, like, ever on ice. And I'm hoping, like, I look at Vancouver's team and I look at all their guys signed. Vancouver should be good in a competitive team for many years, right? Now, Edmonton's got at least 2 more years of McDavid. I still think he'll re-sign. Draisaitl, we'll see. But this should be the beginning of an actual rivalry, right? Like, you mentioned the Smythe, you go back and these two teams, like, there are some guys, I think that Zadorov is a guy that the other team's not going to like. Evander Kane can piss off anybody, right? Vancouver has some smaller guys who are kind of like gnats. And I say that in a complimentary way, right? Like, Höglander will run around and stick some guys. Desharnais is a huge man. He'll get in someone's face. So I think early on, like, this might be a feel-out process. And maybe it's just me who loves rivalries. I hope that as this series goes along, we get some actual, like, on-ice animosity, which it's never happened, guys. Like, I looked at—
They haven't faced each other.
No, it's astonishing. Like, we saw it towards the end of the regular season. We looked it up and like, what? They've only played 2 playoff series? Like, we had to double and triple check.
It's crazy.
See, that's the case. But I mean, they've both been absolutely horrible at times when the other's been pretty good. And so here we are finally, and I'm with you. I hope we see animus, and I hope we see a rivalry sprout out of all this.
Well, you look at it, there's only been 5 years where they both made the playoffs and were within 5 points of each other.
Yeah.
Right. And one of those was 2020. So, you know what? It was in the bubble. There's not the same atmosphere as the playoffs. And they never met in the playoffs in any of those years. So in 92, the last time they met, Vancouver was first in the division and Edmonton was, but that's so long ago, like it's irrelevant. Like, you know, Edmonton fans, it's funny. They talk like they hate Vancouver. And, you know, Bieksa and Kessler, those years with Burroughs, like those guys were great to just stir the pot. But the Oilers were terrible. So they beat them for fun. The Sedins would get on the power play and it'd be tic-tac goal. You know, and Oiler fans would cry in their drinks because they had no competitive team. And then lately here, Edmonton's finally started to get better. And it's only until here the last few years that now the Canucks are good. So I hope it is good, guys, because for two cities that are this close, there really isn't like a rivalry. I think Vancouver Calgary probably has a bigger one just because of those battles in the playoffs.
For sure. I think 9 out of 10 Canucks fans would tell you, if not 10 out of 10 would tell you the Flames are a bigger rival
for sure
than the Oilers. But finally it's here. You know, all these years together in the same division and looking forward to the series. Jason, thanks for the time here today, buddy. Appreciate this.
Hey, boys, sorry it's so loud in here, but I appreciate coming on. Hey, continued success with the show. I love it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Hey, everybody. If you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.